Ron in San Diego. Hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good, and you?
Pretty good.
Hi, Ron.
Yeah, I have a couple of atheist friends, and I'm noticing a contradiction. Like, they say that, I have a friend, he said he's willing to stick to the truth as far as the belief in God. Like, he would, no matter what a Christian says, he would say that God is not real, right? Regardless of how the Christian feels.
Right, sure.
But if a transsexual feels, if a transgender male feels like he's a woman, my atheist friend would embrace that. And so, on the one hand, he's embracing a delusion that this man is really a woman, and he says it's the way the transgender feels. It has nothing to do with evidence. It's the way the transgender feels. But when it comes to Christians, as far as the way they feel, they don't want to embrace it. And I don't understand, if they're all about reality, why when it comes to transgenders and gay people, it's all about the way they feel, and they embrace the way they feel regardless of evidence?
Well, first of all, Ron, when you say that the Christian God exists, that's a very specific claim about the nature of reality, right? Like, if I said that I could jump up in the air and fly around like Superman, you would be skeptical of that, I assume.
Yes.
Do you agree that, the existence, that God existing or not existing is a very precise claim about reality?
Yeah, I'm an atheist, by the way.
Oh, you are?
I'm an atheist, so I know what you're saying, but if a man is clearly a man, and there is no evidence that the man is a woman other than the way he feels, then that's pretty clear also.
Well, the idea...
Dude,
hey,
you can
okay,
see the man.
First of all, you're not Charlie Checkham, are you?
Yes, I am.
Okay, bye. Okay, so I'm going to monologue about this because Charlie Checkham is not, in general, welcome on the show. Yeah, the thing about gender identity is that the concept of gender identity is actually a very fluid idea to begin with. I mean, yeah, there is the specific issue of sex where, as a kid told Arnold Schwarzenegger, boys have a penis, girls have a vagina. But the identification that people choose to go with in society, like the idea that that boys wear pants and girls wear dresses, that boys like blue and girls like pink. There's a big distinction that's made often between sex and gender, where sex is intended to mean the biological state of, let's say, having two X chromosomes or an XY chromosome. But the thing about gender identity is that it is essentially a social imposition. And the thing about being friends with people and getting along with your fellow human beings, assuming that you have any friends, which is not an assumption that I make about a guy like Charlie Checkham. But the ability to get along with people in general means that to a certain extent you accept the kinds of things that they identify as important about themselves. Like, for instance, pretty recently I received an email asking, like, can you prove your name is John, for instance? My point to someone asking a Christian like that is that your name is, to begin with, a fairly arbitrary social construct. My sister, who used to be on this show a long time ago, was born with the birth certificate that says Karen. Her name is Karen. She decided at a certain point in her life that she wanted to spell her name Keryn. She had her name legally changed, and everybody spells it that way. It was her decision to make. Similarly, if a person who happens to have a penis feels like he would like to wear dresses and be referred to as her. There is no major cost, and there is no scientific fact that would prevent this kind of social convention from being used instead of the assumptions that people generally make based on your biology. John, have you got anything to add to that?
No, that was well stated.
Okay.
And there's even more nuance with that too. There's sex, and there's gender identity, and there's sex roles, and it's a lot more complicated than you have an XY, you're a boy, and you're deluded. I mean, which is what Charlie, what did he call himself? Ron?
Charlie Checkham, also evolved atheist.
Yeah.
The guy who's been kicked out of just about every atheist forum in existence because he's really annoying and stupid.
Yeah, and he's real homophobic and
Yep.
Doesn't represent most atheists.
Sorry to sit here and talk about him off air, but he is called over and over again, and we're not really going to sit through another conversation with him.
Well, and don't call under a fake name and try to get past the call screener. But yeah, it's not a delusion. It's the transgender woman is a woman, and she may be biologically male, but she's a woman, and I wouldn't call that a delusion. And like you were pointing out, we're not basing laws on the fact that somebody's gender identity is male or female or what it is. We're not, passing laws that interfere with other people's freedoms.
Right. And there are a lot of things that people kind of assume have objective reality, but turn out not to when you examine them closer. Like, for instance, my friend Guy P. Harrison has written a book on race in which he argues that the concept of there being specific races is generally a myth. And if you look deeply into it, like for instance, a lot of supposed black people have much I mean, sorry, I don't. I feel like I'm not saying this right, but a lot of people who identify with one specific race or another are actually more closely related to a race that they wouldn't identify with. But ultimately, we're all part of the same species, and race very much is or should be irrelevant, and is in a lot of cases socially imposed as well.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we've beaten that horse to death.